Florida Orchestra.
Morning, everyone. Oh, this is so great. I'm going to have to try to figure out the microphone and use my indoor voice because I don't want to overdo on this. This is wild. This was taken about a year ago. There was a book of lists that they do, and of all the offerings in the Tampa Bay area. And so apparently that's me looking enthusiastic playing the violin. So. It's great. It's wonderful. So I'm so happy to be here, you guys. The minute I walked in, I'm like, gosh, this is warm and welcoming. What a nice crew. Nothing to be afraid of. But I love the fact that it's in a climbing gym. I actually have climbed things. I started climbing out west. There'll be more of that later. But yeah, this is a nice place. And I get to take my shoes off because I think I probably hurt myself if I wore my shoes up here. So yeah, so the idea of revival, I like looking up synonyms in the thesaurus, and so like resuscitating, renewal, restoration, all these kind of things that kind of give the impression that something's dead. It's like, oh, let's not do that. Let's not give that impression. But revival means perhaps restoring enthusiasm and excitement, interest, kind of creating a spark of seeing things differently, reframing things. So I wanted to start out with a piece that I know you all will know, but you perhaps won't recognize until we get to the refrain. And it's definitely something, I'd say kind of old, but not as old as the thing we're playing this week with the Florida Orchestra. Uh-huh. Now, who would have thought that a film from 1939 would be kind of reimagined and made into the sensation that Wicked has become? So what's old is apparently new. It's a magnificent prequel. I have not yet seen the Broadway production. I was supposed to go with my mom. I was blessed with two remarkable parents, which is probably has a lot to do with the reason that I play the violin. And so Mom and I were supposed to go together. She became very ill and passed, and I haven't quite had the heart yet to go to see the stage play. But I was on my way to Washington, D.C. a few weeks ago, and Wicked was playing on the plane. And I was blown away. Just absolutely, being green is the coolest thing in the world. It's obviously in fashion. Cynthia Riva did a wonderful, magnificent job of, I fell in love with her character. And I haven't seen the show, so I don't know how it ends. This is part 2, is gonna be exciting. But it's amazing how my entire experience with not just classical music, but just music in general has been, it's so personal to everyone in my opinion. It's a personal experience to hear a piece of music. Music can do the same thing that aromas do, for instance. You smell something, it's like, oh my God, this is carrying me back to a time, a place that I either didn't like or like, a person that I loved or didn't love. It can transport you that way. So I've been just very fortunate to be able to do this to feed the cat, which is really nice. It's a nice way to make a living. So a friend was asking me yesterday, it's like, how did this all start? And so I was blessed with two remarkable parents, both tremendously musical. My mother was a music and language major at Michigan University, 1947. Valedictorian of her class, actually. And so my father was also tremendously musical. They actually met being part of a singing group. And so what happened was, this is so interesting being able to share this experience. So my parents raised me to be Mary Elizabeth. See, I'm obviously, when I'm looking at the world, I can see you guys out there, I can't see myself. So they raised me to be me. There was no, I was just Mary Elizabeth. I wasn't a black person. I was just Mary. And so for the first almost 6 years of my life, my parents did a magnificent job of shielding me from any possible ugliness. I went to an all-white nursery school, all-white kindergarten, had a host of white friends. My godparents were white. The people that my parents circulated with, my dad was in education, taught at university. So I wasn't aware that I was other. I was so loved, so supported, so encouraged, so safe. It was and I have amazing memories very early. So I had really 5 full years of solid, good memories of just this blissful existence, right? Things kind of changed when Dad got a job in Buffalo, New York. He was asked to teach at the State University there. And that's when suddenly the world looked different. Suddenly I realized it wasn't as friendly a place as I imagined it had been. And so things shifted a little bit, but I found my place with the violin. And so we moved they were very brave in 1968 to move to an all-northern suburb of Buffalo, New York, where they had a magnificent school system that had a magnificent string program. So that's how I started playing the instrument. And I was telling Andrew earlier how the violin always, I took to it easily. I mean, it always sounded good. It wasn't like, killing a small animal or something. It wasn't torturing my parents by practicing. So sounding good on the instrument was its own reward, and that encouraged me to continue. And so, from youth orchestra to parents who were devoted to paying for lessons and taking me to youth orchestra rehearsals and all the things that I really so appreciate and know that I wouldn't be here without that having happened. So went to the Eastman School of Music, which is a music conservatory in Rochester. I always kind of laugh because it's like they didn't need SAT scores. That's why I went. But it was great. So I had that experience, had a wonderful 4 years there. And then when I graduated, my private teacher encouraged me to audition for the Charles Revson Fellowship, which was, I guess, back in the day. This was 1984 when I auditioned. I guess it was called affirmative action. I mean, it's DEI, evening the playing field, whatever you want to call it, because there were very, very few. I mean, actually a unicorn, basically. I mean, having somebody of African descent playing a classical instrument is unusual. I mean, and you may not notice, but when you go to orchestras and you look on stage, it's like, huh, I don't see anybody. It doesn't look diverse, if you know what I mean. So, and the audience is usually the same way. So I auditioned for this wonderful program, which was going to allow me to be a member, full voting member, full salary, live from Lincoln Center, recordings, tours, everything with the New York Philharmonic for 2 years. Imagine. I always tease people like that. I front-loaded my career because it was really an impressive way to start out. Believe me, it's like, you know, I was actually living in the building with Mary Tyler Moore and Abe Vigoda, if you remember who these people were, and Leon Klinghoffer we were in his apartment. So it was right across the street from Avery Fisher Hall. So, and I'm a kid, a sheltered child from you know the suburbs of Buffalo. And it's like, please, this is so I was just so overwhelmed with Manhattan, and that was in the '80s when it was really scary. But it was a magnificent experience every single week. A magnificent, world-renowned conductor and soloist. It was nothing but masterworks. No pops, no movies, no, you know, we did Parks concerts, but we did these tours. And I was saying this to someone earlier, it's like I didn't realize at the time, believe me, I was appreciating every second that this was happening. It was rather dreamlike, actually, because it's like, you know, you go from college, and of course you're immersed, and it was a conservatory, so it was all music. Of course, there were liberal arts as well that were required, but it was pretty much music all the time, and practicing, and then suddenly here you are at basically the top of the experience. The best part of it, though, was even though it was a fellowship and internship, there was never one moment in that experience that I was made to feel othered, not a part of, not, you know, like I was just a token that was like filling the seat or something. I was there to learn. I mean, absolutely the warmest, most welcoming experience. And so I can only imagine how quickly those 2 years went. So apparently, let me see if I can figure this. Oh, there we go. How do I get to the collage? Ooh, there's the collage. So yeah, I'm just a dinosaur with tech. But so here we have the Mahler Symphony No. 2, New York Philharmonic, Leonard Bernstein, okay? Life-changing. And that was, I don't know if anybody saw, talking about old becoming new again, the movie Maestro that came out recently with Bradley Cooper being Leonard Bernstein, which even just saying it makes gives me the chills, because the mannerisms, that young man did the most miraculous job of capturing that man's essence. It's creepy. I don't know how he did it. But there's one scene where he's sitting on the stool conducting the chorus in his mass, and it's like, oh my God, it was as though it was him. And I worked with him more than just on this. I mean, we were in the movie. You hear the London Symphony playing Mahler 2 in the church, and that's the piece that's on this recording. It's some of the most beautiful music ever written. And so Bernstein, when I encountered him, I don't know if you in the movie, later in life, and he's in a disco with a young man, and that was what he was looking like when I saw him. I actually licked my face after a concert. It was really cool. So that's my claim to fame. But it was just, we went on tour, and but the best story, I mean, this was one of the wonderful stories, but yet it was horrifying at the time. So we were on tour with the Philharmonic. It was a domestic tour. We went from Ravinia, outside of Chicago, Detroit, Concord Pavilion in San Francisco. 12,000 people, packed. Leonard Bernstein, right? And so we're playing the Pathetique, Tchaikovsky's Sixth Symphony. And I'm sitting with Vladimir, a nice little man, and we were about to, in the silence before we start, the solemn, it's the most solemn, I mean, it's called pathetic, so you can imagine how serious and solemn this is. And Vladimir says, Barry, could you move your chair just a bit to the left? Sure, no problem. And apparently, the AV guys will appreciate this, the back leg of the chair went through the stage, where there was a hole in the stage where the cords were coming out. And so in front of 10,000 people, I just hit the deck. And so Mortifying doesn't even start to cover. So, and the entire brass section was just laughing. So and the thing was, he took such a long time. The piece was actually like about 60 minutes. So I had to sit there mortified, just wanting to do anything else but be sitting in my seat. But the best thing about it was Lenny just kind of looked at me and just, he probably was laughing himself, but just kind of put his head down and said, yes. I'm just like, oh my God. So that was a good story. So anyway. But yeah, so having had that experience, as I said, you can only imagine how quickly those 2 years went. So I actually was married at the time that I was in New York. We parted ways. He went to Omaha, he was a cellist, and I went to we were in South Bend, and I went to Florida Orchestra. Just looking, going, where can I find a job so I don't have to go to Omaha? So I took the job with the Florida Orchestra. And the Florida Orchestra has been, I remember my first rehearsal with them. And we were playing Prokofiev's Five. And I had just come from New York. South Bend Symphony is its own story, which I will get to. But the orchestra here, world class, best kept secret in Tampa Bay, leading arts, performing arts. And it's like unbelievable how well this orchestra gels. We have a magnificent music director who's made wonderful new hires, and it sounds, I used to go to the Grand Teton Music Festival in Wyoming for my musical fix, to have this I don't need to go anymore. I go with love and enthusiasm, but now the Florida Orchestra is absolutely, if you haven't, you must. And this weekend would be the perfect time, believe me. Mahler 3, it's lovely music, absolutely beautiful. So speaking of the Florida Orchestra, does everybody remember Whitney Houston's anthem?
Yes.
Okay, like best anthem ever, like no one can top that. And so what was old became new. Instead of in 3/4 time, they decided to do it in 4, kind of like Marvin Gaye did it. Kind of a fresh look, that was interesting. And how many people know that the Florida Orchestra accompanied Whitney Houston? Oh, see? Now, if you look closely, up yonder, behind her head, looks sort of like me. Okay, so that was the iconic performance of my experience. The Gulf War had just started. Central Command, oh my God, security was tight. And she sang, I know people say she was lip syncing. I was right there. She was singing. It was magnificent. And then the Bills were playing too. That was their first Super Bowl. It's hard being a Bills fan. But it was absolutely magnificent. So that's how kind of, I don't want to say not well known we are, because I think it's happening more and more. We have more of a media presence, more of an online presence, and a following. But if people came to the orchestra, they would absolutely be blown away with the quality and the superb experience of being surrounded by live music. It's not like, I'll date myself, a CD or something in your living room. I don't care how good your sound system is. It's absolutely tremendous and something that really must not be missed. So the idea of revival and restoration, I spend my summers in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. I started going there in the year 2000. The artistic director of the Florida Orchestra was from Jackson Hole. And he spoke to the personnel manager, and it's a recommendation only type thing. And so for 25 summers, with the exception of COVID summer, I've been making my way to the mountains of Wyoming to an acoustically perfect 700-seat music hall. And people from all over the world and major orchestras all over the country congregate in this little village to make this beautiful music. And so when I'm not making music, I'm doing the tent on the side. See the little orange guy there? That's me backcountry solo camping like Reese Witherspoon and Wild, carrying this 30-pound, I call her the Blue Beast, on my back in the woods with all the bears, mountain lions, and all that stuff. And that's at 10,000 feet. And that's where you'll find Mary. So I am an introvert because this is how I recharge and rejuvenate and renew my batteries. So, and it's absolutely magnificent. So I'm definitely out of screaming range of anyone. And people say, "But Mary, you're so brave." I'm like, I'm not really brave. I saw Jaws. I don't go in the water. So no. So I'm I'm really not brave at all. But it's just imagine what that is like, though. The idea of looking up, and the sky is literally white with stars at night. It's just magnificent. It's really hard to pack up my stuff and trot back and play my Daphnis and Chloe or my Ravel or whatever is on the docket for the next week, but it's magic, absolutely pure magic. And so this is, in the right-hand corner there, that's the monarch butterfly. I'm a proud monarch mom. I inherited a milkweed plant from a dear friend that died unexpectedly 3 years ago. And it's the easiest thing in the world. All you have is milkweed, and they will come. And so I'm now, I get tremendously attached. I call myself a monarch doula and facilitate. So this little creature actually made his chrysalis. I encouraged a little bit because I knew I was driving to Wyoming last summer, encouraged him to make it on the staghorn fern, and we took the staghorn fern in and out of each motel room on the way to Wyoming, and this is her first flight, about to be released in the best place anybody could ever imagine, right? So she was living her best life for the time that she had on the planet. So I just saved her some flapping time. It was really wonderful. So yeah, it's the idea of what we do, what we present, what we offer as classical musicians. It's interesting. We do such a varied program. We do almost 100 concerts a year. And everything from, Elf at Christmas, Home Alone, Harry Potter, Star Wars. Oh my God, I always dress up for Star Wars. Can't help that. It's either Uhura for Star Trek, and we do a sci-fi thing, and it's got to be, and Admiral Holdo's my new one, because that's more age appropriate, so I do that one. With the purple hair, it's fantastic. But we do things like Mahler, like tonight. We do youth concerts. And so this is the interesting thing, because getting back to so in 1985, when I had the internship, there was 0.8% of African descent classical musicians. 0.8 of all. That's really low. I don't know if anybody's noticing how low that number is. That's really low. And so now, in 2015, it's 1.8. This is 40 years later. We're not making the headway that, of course, I imagined we'd be. Of course, I thought the world was going to look really differently than it does now anyway, but, the Weekly Reader promised me things were changing. And it's like, but wait a minute. It didn't, the Klan membership's down, and I was so encouraged, and it's like, well, the people will die off and all will be well, and it just kind of it didn't work that way. It's very interesting. So I just lost my train of thought. It's like, what was I talking about? Oh my God. But it's such a small representation. And so I so rarely see people that look like me when I'm performing. And so I'm always, kind of like catching people's eyes, like, oh, look, and the young ladies that we did the Tina Turner review last week, kind of like, hello. And it's just always nice to see each other and kind of connect, because it's really, and I'm always counting heads in the audience, So Sphinx Connect is another organization that I'm plugging as well. It's a new discovery for me. I attended for the first time in 2020 and was asked to be a panelist this last year. The topic was the invisible player, and that's kind of what the experience has been. The people that asked me to be on the panel to discuss my experience as a symphonic musician of color, it was an honor. They asked me not realizing that I'd been in the South Bend Symphony as assistant concertmaster. So how invisible is that, right? They didn't even know that I was there. But it doesn't say black musician next to your name in the program. So the first woman, Rosemary Saunders, was there in the 40s. They hit her in the back and didn't list her in the program. By the 80s, obviously things had been better because they put me in the front, obviously, so things were better. But this wonderful idea of the invisible player, I so identify with, because it's nice to have the kind of connection and being people being aware that it is different. Although, of course, music surpasses and exceeds any division or any difference or whatever you want to call it. It does. It transcends that. But as a musician that kind of looks around and kind of saying, gee, where is everyone? Well, everyone is, this is why I'm a unicorn, because I went to a school that had a magnificent string program. And that was, I won't say it was a hardship for my parents, but it was a challenge for sure. And it was a challenge for me as well. So, and this is a picture of my father here. He's obviously won the hand. He was a member of the 336, he was a Tuskegee Airman. So very, very proud of that. That was a failed experiment. They were hoping that these guys weren't going to be able to fly planes. That was the intent. It's like, well, we'll show that black people can't be pilots, and I guess egg on face, right? So he actually shot down a Messerschmitt. It was only 25 feet off the ground, but it counts. So clearly, I think you can see the resemblance. It's like there's a little bit of the dead face in there, but he's clearly winning the hand in that picture. But yeah, so it's been a magnificent journey. We have a music director now who takes. I was asking somebody before this, like, why do more people not come to the Florida Orchestra concerts? What's with the not coming to the orchestra thing? I mean, why is it like pushing a rock uphill sometimes, you know? And because I believe that there's an appetite for classical music. I mean, I think that people just sometimes they can't get enough, and sometimes they just maybe I don't really know what it is. People seem to come to the Vinoy outdoor concert in droves. You know, I don't know if it's just the outdoor thing. We need to build a huge venue outside, but perhaps feeling that they won't understand it, or I can't be away from my phone that long. I don't know what it is. But the music director now was gifted the gift of gab. He's magnificent and is like a docent in a museum, and just takes you on a journey. It breaks it down for you beautifully. You feel like a sense of ownership and knowing what to expect and what comes next. And so what we're doing this week, I mean, this is kind of the idea of revival, outdoors, restoration thing, the whole theme. It's all outdoorsy. It's about the arrival of summer, what the flowers say to me, what the animals say to me, what man says to me, mankind, and what the angels say, and what love says to me. And so, I mean, the entire journey, it takes 96 minutes. I promise you, it's like, where did that 96 minutes just go? Because I mean, you go to a 96-minute movie, it's that invigorating, it's that stimulating, it's that, I want to say transformative, because I mean, I swear, if I could just transport each and every one of you into a seat, or tomorrow evening, we're doing the dress rehearsals tonight. If I could transport you to that place, you wouldn't be like, gosh, I can't believe I'm here. This is really awful. When's it going to be over? I promise you it's not that way. So one of the things that was a treat, an absolute treat, was having Cynthia Erivo come to join the orchestra. Having performed with Whitney Houston, I can promise you Cynthia Erivo will be a household name within minutes. I mean, she is absolutely one of the most remarkable performers. She held the audience in the palm of her hand. I mean, it was, and I was worried because I'd heard that she wasn't able to sing songs from Wicked. I'm like, oh my God, people are going to be just like climbing the walls. Oh my gosh, it was magnificent. Every single thing that she did, every single piece that she sang, she drew you in. And there was a very, very special moment when she came backstage and our eyes met, and she walked. We weren't allowed to not touch. Well, we weren't allowed to approach the soloist, and so it was very rigid because you don't want to like have her not come back in September 3rd when she's coming again. So and there she was, just walking off stage, and we saw each other, and people hadn't cleared the backstage yet, and everything stopped. And I didn't know if I was imagining it or because sometimes in dream sequences in movies everything gets quiet. It really did, and everyone from the music director to the stagehands were transfixed. She walked over to me and put her head and her third eye to mine, and we held it there for 15 seconds minimum. It was the experience of my life. I mean, it's like it was an acknowledgement of sisterhood, of support, of I see you, of I know what this is like. I can't believe you're doing this, because it is impressive if you think about it too much. It's it really is. And I mean, of course, I'm like, what do I say? This is better than any selfie. Was the best I could come up with. And yeah, it was. And I've got the smell of her perfume stayed on my hands even after a shower. She's magnificent. Cannot wait for her to come back. But it was a powerful moment, and so. Having this ability, this honor of being able to do this for a living. I was sitting in my seat during rehearsal last night just going, this is ridiculous. I mean, I must have done something really fabulous in another life to get to do this. Now, not to say it's work, trust me. It's not like, I just play all day and dance around like, what's the Lindsey Sterling all the time. It's not like that. It is, it's challenging. It is, but no lives hang in the balance. I always say that. But people certainly enjoy just seeing people's faces light up when they with the Tina Turner, they da-da-da-da, and it's like, oh my God, and you can see people's face change when they hear the theme from Somewhere in Time, Rachmaninoff Piano Concerto, and they hear it, and I don't know there are no words in language to describe what that looks like when they, all of a sudden, they're transported to a place either they've been or they haven't been. And it's just, it's magnificent. So, in this kind of framework of this fragile, fleeting experience that we have on the planet, compared to the massive, expansive universe, we all get this kind of journey, and it's a singular one, no matter whether they have family, loved ones, whatever it is. I got to do this somehow and have these fantastic experiences that just kind of keep coming, So I can't wait to see what comes next. Thank you so much for listening, you guys. This is wonderful.
Let's keep it going.
Soak it all in.
I love it.
Well, if you guys have any burning questions.
You must have some questions.
I
love questions.
Line up here. We are corded today, so I cannot walk around. But please, if you have any questions for Mary, please come up here. Don't be shy. This is your chance. This is your opportunity to ask the Mary Corbett.
There must be a question.
Anything?
What's your favorite food? Something.
So it's kind of along the lines of what's your favorite food, but I noticed that you had a blue backpack and you have a very blue dress. And I'm wondering if blue has a significance for you.
It's been always my favorite color. My first Schwinn was a blue bike. It's just the color of the sky. The color of the water. It's my favorite color. You never get tired of looking at the sky. I mean, it's just, so yeah, blue in all of its shades. My new car, it's offshore blue, although it's a blue gray, But my yoga mat happens to be blue as my yoga towel. I see a trend. But yeah, I absolutely love blue.
Well, you look stunning in it, and thank you so much. Just loved listening to you talk today.
Anyone else? Question? Oh, come right up.
Hi, Christina.
Hi, Mary.
Darling.
She's amazing.
She's amazing.
From personal experience, I know. Do you have a favorite piece of music that you like to play, or that of all time? Any?
I do, absolutely. Well, I've had difficulty narrowing it down to 5. This is my favorite piece. I can never play any other piece than this piece. Okay, so Mahler 2 has got to be, although 3 is so good. Okay, but what I say my favorite piece is the Alpine Symphony, which we're beginning the season with next year. Strauss Alpine Symphony. Okay, it has to do with the outdoors, yes. You see a feel. One of my favorite scenes, it has to be my favorite scene, the beginning of The Sound of Music, Julie Andrews running around in the mountains. That made the impression. So always outdoors, Alpine Symphony, sweeping melodies, descriptive, magnificent, great for the violin, lots to do, running around on the fingerboard, and Romeo and Juliet, Prokofiev, because I'm a frustrated dancer. Actually, I'm the girl in the pit going, God, I wish I was doing that, because I actually went. You'll love this story. For turning 50, I started taking ballet. I wanted to get on point, and so you should have seen me in the class of 9 and 10-year-olds over on Central Avenue. Hilarious. And we got such a kick out of it. I just say I'm really big for my age, whatever. And I actually did it. And I walked into the On Point store, and I was like, are you a dancer? I'm like, yes, I am. And so I did it. But when we started doing the 360 turns, I knew it was time to stop. Don't want to ruin the knees for the climbing thing. Thank you, Christina, darling.
I think we got another question. Oh.
Hi there. Thanks so much. You are hilarious, by the way.
Oh, gee.
I think you should do stand up and take your on the road.
When you calling?
Yeah. So speaking of ballet, right? So I wonder if you have any advice for parents who try to work with their children to practice, whether it's ballet or violin, and to develop a lifelong love of some sort of fine art. But sometimes kids resist. You've praised your parents. I wonder how that was for you, and you've had any advice for other parents.
Okay, absolutely. So, that's great. That's a great point. Okay, so the idea of encouraging youngsters and exposing them to the arts is magnificent. I started out with dance, piano, but see, I did other stuff too that I loved. And so the pull of not just the little kids playing outside that I wanted to join when I was supposed to be practicing, which was, I mean, to be honest with you, I really wanted to be out playing. I mean, and that did happen. It was, Mom and Dad were like, you must practice until you do anything else. It wasn't like that because I really did love it. And as I said, sounding good was its own reward. But I did, I mean, I was a cheerleader in 9th grade. I was. And so but couldn't do... Couldn't do that. The violin won, obviously, but I was in gymnastics, and I ran track, and I won the bike rodeo 2 years in a row. They wouldn't let me enter the 3rd year because let somebody else win. So athletics was like the dance. It was a real draw, but just having an appreciation. I mean, I imagine it will be a lifelong thing, but it's really, really hard, and I'm not sure what the little. There was a little bit of. Yeah, I remember there was a little bit of like, well, Mary Elizabeth, I guess I'll just have to tell Aunt so-and-so you're not playing the violin anymore. I mean, a little, yeah, that was wrong. That was not good, but it worked. Guilt. Never fails.
Hi. Loved your talk, and really loved your performance.
Well, thank you.
So I'm a creative. It's my goal to reach people on an emotional level with everything I do, and I feel like I probably miss that mark a lot just because it's like my medium. Mm-hmm. Do you acknowledge that you get up here and like punch holes in people's hearts and souls and everything like that emotionally? And have you acknowledged that, and how does that make you feel that you'll be just doing your thing and people are just like breaking down in front of you?
Oh yeah, that's interesting, because that's one of the reasons I believe, this is my personal opinion, I don't know if anybody agrees with me, but that's why I think that it's so difficult for people to, I'll use Mahler as an example, come to the Mahler concert this weekend. It is, I mean, it's raw, and what people should be doing is breaking down and sobbing. I mean, I don't know how people are just kind of sitting there looking like they're just enjoying it when it's like, are you hearing what's going on? You know, because and at a cellular level, I believe in this stuff. I mean, yoga is something that I practice absolutely every day, and I believe in the whole experience of vibration and sound, and like I can hear a melody, and I know other people do too, and it makes your body kind of, it feels like a little feeling like that. So yes, and I think that really is what keeps people away, in a way they don't want to feel the feelings that these sounds and rhythms and melodies, oh God, you know, it just pulls at you. I mean, so it's like, I think that it's a really real experience. I think that I appreciate your mentioning that, because I think that that's one of the reasons why, let's go to the Vinoy Parks concert. It's outside. We can run away if we have to, if we get overwhelmed by the John Williams tunes, you know. But yeah, it is, what we have is really, it's powerful. It's as good as a lightsaber. Huh. You know, it really is. It really is. It's neat.
Do we have another question here?
Hello, that was fantastic. Have you seen Soul, the movie?
I haven't.
Okay. Well, your talk throughout the talk reminded me of that movie.
I'll have to see it now.
Because the movie itself, he's searching for the next thing. Like, oh, I got the best gig, but it's what's next. And throughout your talk, it just reminded me of gratitude. Like you were just speaking about how grateful you are and how present you are, and that was just beautiful.
Oh, that's lovely.
So thank you.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. And that's one of the things that I think is interesting. Because, you know, when I was at Eastman, you know, first of all, I wanted to be a soloist. I mean, I loved playing solos with orchestras. I mean, there's nothing better. And I like playing dress up, so, and I'm a ham, so yeah, it was perfect. But I started the violin too late to do that. So my teacher at the time had the talk with my parents saying, you know, Mary can be in a very fine orchestra, you know. So I was like, okay, good. But the idea of a 52-week-a-year orchestra was my goal. It's like, I'm going to get into a big orchestra. It's going to be great. Well, I started out in New York, and I actually auditioned for the New York Philharmonic and was first runner-up. But that doesn't get the gig. Doesn't matter. But it did certainly let people know that, yeah, hi, I'm here. You know, I'm obviously a capable violinist. But I swear, from having the experience in the Buffalo Philharmonic, I was there for a couple of months because a man had a heart condition or something, and they hired me right out of school. To the New York Philharmonic, to the South Bend Symphony, smaller, but yet, you know, it was going from New York to South Bend was interesting. But and then being in the Florida Orchestra, and certainly subbing in other orchestras and having friends in other orchestras. So I have a wealth of experience of being in an orchestra. It's the same job. I mean, the halls may be more lush. Certainly the endowments are larger, the salaries are larger. The audiences aren't necessarily, we do very well at packing our houses. I mean, some of the northern cities aren't recovering from COVID the way we are, you know, so we do very, very well with enthusiastic, robust houses here. But the idea of like, that's why I'm so satisfied, because it's like I was in New York, it's like, you guys, it's the same job. Don't lose your minds over trying to get, I've got to go to Cincinnati. I mean, I'm sure it's a lovely city. I actually took the audition there many years ago. I don't want to move from St. Petersburg to Cincinnati, frankly. I mean, I'm sure it's a great town, but a little landlocked, and no. But so I just, you know, but many people just, orchestra musicians tend to just take auditions. There's an audition, I got to go get that job. And I'm like, but I promise you, it's like, you know, growing butterflies. I mean, you can't have a bad day when that's going on, you know. Practicing yoga every day in a place that is like my sanctuary. It's absolutely the most sublime. I mean, oh my gosh, I don't know how to describe the Body Electric. It's just, it's saved my bacon. It really has. It's absolutely inexplicable. Friends have followed me in there. It's like, because they see me how happy I am with it. But yeah, the idea of all the experiences that I have, I mean, certainly the Grand Teton Music Festival. I mean, a magnificent festival that was created by a conductor from China, Ling Tong, as a restorative place for musicians in major orchestra to restore for 8 weeks, coming to a beautiful place to just kind of, I mean, there's something, but they talk about forest bathing. There's something that really does happen when you walk outside, when your feet are bare and on the earth, and you can just ground that way. It does something. It's not just like a wives' tale or a fad. They've been doing it for thousands of years. It really works. So, yeah, thank you, dear.
I think we have one last question right here.
Hi, Mary. I loved your exploration of identity, you being of African descent and your place in the world because of it. I wanted to know if you had any opinions on blind auditions for orchestras. Do you have any opinions? I just wanted to hear it.
I do. I do. So, and that's interesting because, you know, people are so, we're trying to make things as fair as possible, right? And so my experience, as you see the number of like, you know, 1.4, 1.8 musicians in all of the orchestras over the country are black, the number, in my opinion, it's not that we are turning away people at the audition process. They're not getting there. I proctored 4 auditions between 2018 and 2020. Piccolo, oboe, trombone, and violin. We weren't turning away black candidates. So what happens is it's the distribution of wealth. It's the idea of going to a nice school that has a nice string program or some sort of arts magnet or something. It's a numbers game. I mean, look at all the white people that can't play the violin. I mean, it's just because you give somebody an instrument doesn't mean it's going to work. So I mean, it's true. So this is my opinion. I mean, I'm not speaking for anybody else, but just the idea of blind auditions, not so much. It doesn't, because I mean, it's been my experience. Because really it starts way before anybody gets to an audition. So, absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, give it up for Mary Corbett.